you have to suspend your understanding of what it is you sell. And you have to imagine that person on the other side of the ad or the social media post and what they're thinking and what they think the problem is. We don't change. We're kind of the same whether we're in person or we're online. Even though we're digital, we're still human. I think intimacy and connection are going to be currencies that we can still use. Those are the marketers that are going to win the game.
Hey, Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Now, we've known each other for a while, and in certain sandpits, you're a big deal. There's a lot of people that know who you are. But one of the things that caught me about you is in today's real world, the real world is digital.
Yes.
And you are one of the queens, icons, and legends of the digital world. You've got Funnel Gorgeous. You know how to run interaction. You're a digital marketing expert and coach. You've got a podcast we're going to go into in a few moments. But why do you believe that digital is the real world today? Why do you believe it's only going to get more real by being up there? And where do people go wrong?
Gosh, well,
there's a lot there. I'm sorry. Unpack it at will.
Let's get right to it. Why do I think digital is going to grow? I could go into the, AI, metaverse, Ready Player One world. We're all just everything is just moving more and more digital over time. And all of our communication channels are digital. And, I was thinking about the fact that if someone gets, let's just say their Facebook account shut down or something like that, some of our online profiles are so valuable. It's like digital real estate. And so if you're not taking care of your digital profile, how you show up in search, how you show up on different platforms, LinkedIn, doesn't matter where, this is where all the commerce is going. And so your online footprint is just incredibly, incredibly important. And I think where people go wrong is that they forget that humans we don't change. We're kind of the same whether we're in person or we're online. And so people go online and they forget that the same tactics that work for in person, learning how to be friends, learning influence, learning how to network, are the same things that are going to get you where you need to go online too. Even though we're digital, we're still human. And so, winning friends and influencing people, that book is going to work online too. It's just the tactic might change slightly.
Now, I know a lot of people get very, very scared with this word funnel. They think it's once I've, given you my email, oh my God, you're going to track me until I die. And that's true when it's a bad funnel. But I have an opinion, and I have this opinion about tracking, and let's be blunt, I have a lot of opinions, and some of them are not politically correct. But there's a lot of people that say, hey, I don't want to be tracked, and I don't want funnels. Okay. I love it when the internet suggests stuff to me that they already know I like. If I like motorcycle parts and I keep getting motorcycle parts sent to me online, hey, I'm chuffed. I don't want cooking parts. I can't cook for shit. And the funnels, a good funnel shouldn't be seen as a funnel. Yeah. So again, I'm asking the Queen here. Why are people making so many mistakes with harsh, horrible, disjointed funnels? And what should they be doing about, or what should they be paying attention to when they're making a funnel?
Okay, so the big thing here is that people get weird around the word funnel. It's just a type of website. I tell people a funnel is a type of website that is used specifically to sell off of social media, right? If you go to someone's website, there's a lot of choices. You go into a funnel, there's one choice. And so on social media, when we're scrolling, it's going to be easier to click on an ad or click on a post and then just make one decision. So don't get, messed up around the world, around the word funnel. People go wrong all the time in funnels because they think that people are going to be more likely to buy with choice, and they're not. And where the funnel is matters. So if you are on Facebook, you are looking to be entertained more than likely. You're not searching, right, for some solution. You're scrolling and you want the algorithm to serve up things that you like. Just like you said, you like motorcycles. So the algorithm is doing its job to try to find things that it knows that you are going to like. And then when you click on the funnel or you click on the ad, you are happy to buy something if it's relevant and you're happy to see those things versus someone who's searching. Like if you have a problem, you take to Google, like why did my plant die? Whatever the problem is, you want an answer right there. So I think most people go wrong with funnels is they aren't thinking about where the funnel is going to be viewed. Is this a funnel that's coming off of a blog post? Is this coming off of a YouTube video? Is this coming off of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok where people really, they just want to be entertained and you're going to actually interrupt their entertainment versus, hey, you're going to show up at just the right time when people have a problem. And so knowing where that funnel is going to go is actually really incredibly important.
Hey, I'm sorry for interrupting this podcast. I know it's a brilliant one, but I wanted to talk to you about your room, your connections. Now, we know full well that great things come from great connections and great rooms. Now, if you're in a room full of people that will challenge you, inspire you, motivate you, and support you, then great. But if not, then maybe I have the solution for you. Head on over to stevedsims.com, look up Sims Distillery there, and join our community of creative disruptors, those that are only not there to help you and motivate and actually give you information, but to support and answer questions. We very much vet the room to make sure that we support each other's growth. We all want each other to grow. So if you want to be in the right room, head on over to stevedsims.com/Sims Distillery, and I'll see you inside my room. Enjoy the rest of the show. I never thought about that because once you know where it is, it's like walking into a party or walking into a concert. When you know what kind of music's being played, you can react accordingly. You can change, and I really hadn't thought about it like this, but it's so simple. You can adapt and make sure your tonality is accurate based on where you are having that conversation. And
Exactly.
That's where it can get disjointed. Now, you've run a mastermind on this for way too many years, and you probably want to add up. But is that one of the focuses that people get wrong, the tonality of where the conversation is coming from?
Yes, a lot of people get stuck in their expertise, and so they forget where the person is at the moment that they're viewing this funnel. So I like to tell people that you have to suspend your genius. You have to suspend your understanding of what it is you sell. And you have to imagine that person on the other side of the ad or the social media post and what they're thinking and what they think the problem is. And this is a big, big, big problem. I could say, oh, I'm going to help you, edit your book and get you a great cover design. But if the person on the other end is like, doesn't even realize they have a book inside them or doesn't even know how they're going to get a manuscript done, you're talking to the wrong, they're not going to hear you. You have to go to the corner that they're on, whatever street corner they're standing on, you have to go there. And it's going to be your job through the funnel to bring them to that point of awareness where they're like, okay, this is what I actually need. And I always tell the story when I first got started. I was a blogger, a mom blogger, and I had a mom blog, and I wasn't even trying to make money, but I was like really into the tech of the WordPress theme, and I was constantly changing the header. And I had all these mom bloggers say, your header's so cool. Like, I want your header. And I would look, and they were on Blogspot, which was like a janky, Google version. And I was like, that's not going to work over there. And I realized that what I had to do is actually tell them, you want a cool header, you're actually on the wrong platform. You need to move. So I had to go talk to the actual problem, but I had to meet them where they were at, which was they just wanted a cool header. And so I met them there, and then I brought them over here, and then I sold them a migration package. I sold them a new header. I sold them all these things. And so where people are in the problem and how they're talking about the problem matters a ton.
So you love to find and this is capitalism and it's entrepreneurism 101. You find a solution, then you find out who's got a problem, and then you sell them the solution. Simple.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to talk about metaverse for a second. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Because Yeah, and that's the common response, isn't it? You know,
I just like
metaverse.
want to talk about the metaverse. Like, I don't know the metaverse.
Well, everyone wants to throw it around. That it's the next thing. It's
Yeah.
everyone's got to have that space, and every now and then you see these headlines that Nike's got a virtual store in the metaverse and all these kind of things. Are we ready for it yet? Because quite simply, you've said and I can quote this because it's recorded. We ain't changed much.
No.
And the fact of the matter is that nothing can be more accurate than that. We still get scared when a bush rattles. We're still scared when the lights suddenly go off. We still kind of like look when we see someone that we think, whoa, that's pretty. We still go, oh, when we hear a car engine that we like. We really haven't evolved much outside of being pack animals. We want to find a group that we can hug in, love in, be supported by, and we want to stay in that group. So we haven't evolved, and now it's coming along this thing going, hang on a minute, where you're going to find that is going to be up there. It's going to be digital. Are we ready to accept that?
I think we have a real logistical problem right now with the metaverse, and that is that, it's funny. My brother works, he's in VR. And so he works on the video games on the Oculus and the Apple's coming out with a new one. We just have a logistical problem, is that in order to get into the metaverse, we got to put these big ass glasses on, and half the population gets nauseous as hell 30 minutes into it. So we have to solve that problem first. I do think that if we somehow figure out how to solve for that so that it is something that we can consume on a daily basis, I think the metaverse has a shot. I think for right now, the metaverse is kind of stuck in these, it's in our magic triangles, right? Like it's in, we have these little worlds, like my kids play Roblox and, they have all their friends, and that's a type of metaverse, if you will, but it hasn't fully enveloped us. And I think if we solve that like technical problem and we merge AI and metaverse together, I'm worried for humanity, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I feel like we're never going to return back to the real world unless, the world demands it of us.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine. My background was in the travel and the concierge industry, and I had someone saying to me that they were working on programs where you could put on your headset and wander through the streets of Florence and wander through Rome and stuff like that. That ain't traveling.
No.
You're not getting the smells. Okay, maybe they can start bringing in the smells. Maybe you could have some food delivered that tastes like what, but you're not there. The bottom line of it is that it can encompass you to a point, but it can't encompass you totally. And I'm really concerned that people are going to start living through that, thinking it's real life. And then the metaverse does scare me.
We do have that problem today. I mean, we have a lot of kids growing up who don't really have real life friends. It's just digital. It does solve some problems and it serves some needs, but you're right. It's never going to encapsulate the five senses, at least not yet. I mean, who knows? Who knows? I shouldn't say never.
So this may be, maybe not the smartest thing to bring up, but I have some strange friends. And I have a friend of mine in the porn industry. Okay. And she was saying that the problem with that industry was it was given an artificial suggestion to what women are. The porn industry is going, hey, this is what a woman should look like. For her to be sexy, she has to look like that. But AI has stepped in and put them out of work. And she was saying about how much is being created now that's AI. So it's not a case of we're looking at someone that's overly made up, artificially maybe enhanced. We're looking at something that's not even real now and buying into it. And we're seeing so many of these AI-generated characters. And there's a classic one a little while ago about this girl that built a chatbot. She recreated this AI avatar of this attractive woman. And it suddenly started having all of these friends and Facebook pages. There's a disconnect. We've got so many ways of connecting today, but we couldn't be more disconnected than we've ever been.
Yeah, I was watching a TED talk, and someone said that social media, the algorithm, was the first iteration of AI, and it was the race to the bottom of the brainstem, right?
Mm.
And it was, whatever we could get to stop the scroll and pay attention. And now AI is coming in. It the ability to like craft your perfect human with all the things that, I mean, I don't know where we go next because, just the way anything is addictive, you get it so perfect and so right. And then we just need more and more and more to get that same
Mm.
reaction. I don't really know where it goes. I have to admit, I don't like to follow that train of thought because it seems a little dark. But I think that in the time of AI, if we're business owners and we're trying to compete with I think intimacy and connection are going to be currencies that we can still use because, humans be humans, like even though, we can craft our perfect ideal, it's not going to touch that part of us that really needs that intimate connection with another human. And that's where we can still stand.
Couldn't agree with you more. And although for anyone fortunate enough to be watching this, they're looking at us two and going, my God, those two are perfect. As human beings, we don't trust, go with it,
Okay,
Um,
gotcha.
we don't trust perfection.
No.
And I think you're correct. The more that we are trying to create this perfection, the more we're going, oh, that looks beautiful, but I know it's not real. I want something real. And as the old British saying goes, warts and all. We want the imperfections because we're imperfect. And only then can we actually connect as two people. Like two people that have run a business. It's like, and I know you do this, and I know you have your own mastermind. When entrepreneurs during COVID couldn't connect with anyone again in a room setting. The second COVID was over, we wanted to get back in a room. Now we could get that information from a Zoom call, we could get that information from a book, but there's nothing more than entrepreneurs want than to actually be in a room with other like-minded weirdos.
It's
And
so true. The
the
revenge travel
connection,
was hard. Like it was just like
yeah.
I remember my mastermind was virtual, and then as soon as COVID ended, we did like I had like the most well attended mastermind I had ever had because everyone was just desperate to be in the same room together.
Which validates that we all want those basic primitive reactions of being a human being to connect
Mhm.
one on one, look eyeball to eyeball, laugh at a joke, not laugh at a joke, argue with someone, fight with someone. We are, for all intents and purposes, primitive animals. And I
Yes.
think while the metaverse may dress a bow on it and make it look very pretty, and all of a sudden up in that metaverse, we can look perfect with a six pack and all these kind of things, at the end of the day, we need a real life connection. And if you can utilize, and again, going back to what you were saying about where they are viewing their information, if you can talk to them in that tone and where they are positioned in the sandpit, you have a greater ability of connecting, which at the end of the day, marketing genius or not, and we know you are, at the end of the day, it comes down to we want a connection, correct or wrong?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And the funnels, if we want to circle it back, the funnels that can create that connection by really truly understanding where the person is in the moment, what their problem is, why that problem is so painful, and how much value there is in solving that problem. Those are the marketers that are going to win the game, and that means really understanding humans.
That's beautiful. All right, human beings. We like to talk, we like to chat, we like to listen. And for that reason, you've thrown out a podcast. Got two questions. First one's really easy. What's it called?
It's called Million Dollar Grit.
All right. Why? Why'd you bring it out?
I brought it up because I've told my story in bits and pieces and parts, and I'm trying to get the full story out there. And my sort of rise to my millions was very gritty and very messy, and in some ways like accidental. I didn't set out to like become $1 million, business. I didn't set out to become a millionaire, none of that. And I feel like my story has a lot of lessons in the sort of the grit and grime and like the things we don't like to talk about, but that are really a part of that journey of financial freedom. And so I thought, I'm going to start a podcast. I plan to write a book called Million Dollar Grit. And I said, I'm going to start this podcast and I'm just going to start talking about all those issues that entrepreneurs face as they're growing.
I'm a little bit startled. So you're telling me that you didn't leave school and make $1 million easily?
I did not leave school and make $1 million easily. No.
Isn't that, but okay, so is that grit and hustle? And that's a funny thing. Both of us are older than, Facebook.
Mhm.
But isn't it funny that as we grew up, if you were referred to as a hustler, it was a bad thing.
Yes.
And now we look at the hustle and grit. If someone's got a resume and it's got number one hustler and grit on the top, we're hiring them, okay? Because these are elements that we need nowadays. How many people oversee the fact of the downside and the dark side and the immense education you get from those moments being beneficial, but then it's the grit that carries it through to success? Everyone today looks for a shortcut, and you didn't have any. You had some dark paths. You had some downtimes. We've spoken offline about, some of those moments. But would you have, and this is a tough thing to say, would you have avoided them if you could have, knowing that you wouldn't have gained the benefit lessons that you then had to be able to continue the way you are?
Yeah, well, you ask me now, hindsight's 2020. I'd be like, I would change nothing. You ask me then, and I would have done anything to change some of the pain and suffering. And I always tell myself, when I'm in a really, really bad moment in business, I say to myself, this is going to be a good story someday. And this is going to be the part of the movie that everyone's on the edge of their seat about. And I just kind of remind myself that later it's going to be cool. And right now it completely sucks. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned in my journey, I would say, it's been about a decade that I have been growing, is that failure and crisis have amazing opportunities that success and peace don't. And so, people say, well, how did you get to millions so fast? Well, you know what? I didn't have full custody of my kids. And so there was a hustle and a grit of I was going to do whatever it took to get my financial feet under me so that I could have them back. And, you get in crisis and in pain and in failure, you have this candle that gets lit, this fire that gets lit. It's not permanent. It doesn't last forever. And if you don't use it, it's going to burn out. And then you're going to go back to, comfort and regularness. That's not a word, but I used it. I used that fire when it hit because I knew it was going to burn out. And that's when I made those big jumps in income and success. And that's how I am where I am today.
As I was rolling around the planet working with some very impressive and powerful people, you noticed that there was threads amongst a lot of those people. And one of the threads that I noticed very early on was their desire and obligation to lean into pain. Anytime anything went wrong, and it was a bad marketing decision, it was an acquisition, it was an employment of a bad character, a toxic relationship, whatever it was, there were two types of people. And there were the ones that leant back and went, oh my God, shit, that should have never happened, woe is me. And hey, the world owes me one, which it sure as shit don't. And then there was the successful people that had the right mindset that whenever anything went wrong, they leant into the problem because that's where the gold was. And as you're saying, you learn more from those moments. We don't want them, but I remember the great philosopher, the great man himself, Mike Tyson, said everyone's got a plan until they get a punch in the nose.
So and true.
I know it's basic, but it's so accurate. But we learn how bad our guard and our position is when we get that punch. And then if we can lean into it and more importantly, learn from it, we won't get it again.
Yeah.
Now, you've got the podcast coming out. Are you interviewing guests or is it you giving us your nuggets?
Most of them are monologue type, hot takes and analysis, but I am going to be having guests. In fact, I just recorded one today and I'm going to start adding guests with, people who have real unfiltered stories. And a lot of the times, you see someone online, you see the top of the iceberg, you don't see the bottom. And I want to go diving under the surface.
And is that what's going to be the basis of the book, getting the education from these conversations?
Well, the book is going to be my underneath the iceberg and what I learned. So it's going to be more like a hybrid memoir with lessons involved. And then who knows, maybe the next one will be other people's stories. But first I got to tell my own.
Now, I like the fact that you're actually going to be sharing, undersharing the pain, the problems, the scars, the scratches. A lot of people today are scared, and there's all this word about vulnerability. And I notice a lot of people use that vulnerability as a marketing strategy.
Yeah, it was a tactic, I was going to say.
Yeah. I saw the most cringy, and it's hurting me to even repeat this. I was about to go on stage at an event in San Diego, and this cretin of a speaker was up on stage prior to me. And he kind of faked a breakdown. He kind of faked this kind of like moment of emotion, and then looked up to the crowd and he said, and I can't even make this shit up, "I apologize for being authentic. It just got to me." And I thought to myself, who the goes up on stage and says that? Does that mean that if at that moment you apologizing for being authentic, you were a lying prick for the rest of it? But he was literally using it to grab people's attention. Authenticity, vulnerability, I despise both of those terms. What I admire and love is transparency. I want to understand you. I want to feel the pain that you went through. And if you're transparent with me going, hey, I'm going to tell you what I went through so you don't have to. Or if it does happen to you, you can go, well, okay, this is how I get my way out of it. I admire that transparency. I am therefore putting the gauntlet out that you, and I know you can, so if you don't need me to prod you, but hey, in a dark moment of feeling maybe a bit guilty, I want you to lay it all out there. I want the transparency of what you've been through to know that it's going to help other people. And I can't wait for that book to come out. And I'm going to tell you straight up, when the book comes out, you're going to let me know, and we're going to talk about it on another podcast. Is that fair?
That would be amazing. I agree with you that I think, the first people who decided to kind of break that barrier and be really vulnerable and transparent and then got a good reaction, then, marketers ruin everything, right? They're like, oh, that works. So let me try that. I will say though, that fake authenticity gets basically the reaction that you just had there, which it's cringe, right? Because you can tell, like you just energetically can tell when someone's not really being honest for honest sake.
Yeah, our guts are a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
Exactly.
And I've learned to live by mine. I remember a motor racer at Le Mans, and he said, my ass is smarter than my head. And I thought I was searching to try and find out where I could find intelligence in that. But he said that when you are riding in that seat, and if you ever look at a motor racing seat, it's pretty much a single piece of plastic. There is no fabric on there, which means that the base of their body, the lower part of their spine and their ass is connected with the chassis. Every movement in the car, vibration in the engine, the revs, the braking, the chatter, they first feel it in their ass.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until he explained it to me that I realized that. And he had learned to trust his ass.
That's funny.
It was. But when you actually understand why, that reaction to him trusting what was there was actually saving his life.
Well, they say that the stomach is the second brain, right?
Yeah.
So when you have that pit in your stomach or your butterflies or whatever, your body is picking up on things that your brain maybe can't logically place. And so there is absolutely truth to that.
Now, the podcast is out. Where is the best place for people to follow you and get more of you?
Well, you can always go to my website, juliechenell.com. It's Chenell, 1 N, 2 Ls. And you can go there, and that's where, I talk about my mastermind, my podcast. I also have a sister business, Funnel Gorgeous. It is a brand designed to help educate and help bootstrapping business owners with their funnels and their marketing materials. So you can go to funnelgorgeous.com as well. And of course, go hang out on my podcast. It'd be great. milliondollargrit.com.
Perfect. Judy, thank you very much for brightening my day. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I look forward to having you back on when that book's done.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Well, that was another episode of the Art of Making Things Happen podcast with me, your host, Steve Sims. If you like it, you know the scoop. Subscribe, tell your friends, share it around. Let them get benefit from this juice. And of course, if you want to change the room you're in, join Sims Distillery. Jump over to stevedsims.com/Sims Distillery, or you can find a link directly from that website. That's the room where creative disruptors get together to actually help each other become better. If you've got standards or you want higher standards, join the right room. See you next time.